So, we're finally here. After 6 months of a burning garbage pile, Creative Assembly finally turned Warhammer 3 into what the community wanted it to be. With patch 2.0, we not only got the Immortal Empire campaign, which combines the campaign maps of the first, second and third game into one global arena of mayhem, but also we got Warhammer 3's first post-launch DLC. Champions of Chaos, a new addition to the until now bare bones Warriors of Chaos faction that got a very fresh rework, make it into a fantastic faction representing the mortal part of the Chaos Legions. I'm not gonna talk much about the Warriors of Chaos rework itself, more so about what the DLC itself provides. We get 4 champions, each one representing a Chaos God. In Immortal Empires, this doesn't carry a narrative importance, since that is a sandbox experience. But in the Realms of Chaos, their campaign plays out post-Bear Race, which is the best way to add new factions to the ROC campaign. No rifts, no stupid Bear Race, everything people hated about it not bothering us anymore. So this arena Catherine canonically wins the Bear Race, but some rifts around the globe remain dormant in the world, waiting for something or someone, finding a fresh purpose for them. And that's where the champions comes in, each one of them figuring out they can use this rift with enough souls to form a network of portals to open up a path to the ancient city of Beijing, where they keep the souls of all of China's dead, so whoever can claim them for themselves is up for quite a power boost. Regardless of which champion you pick, the campaign follows the same mechanic. You collect souls, and when you reach a certain threshold, you awaken rifts across the map. You can activate these with your passport to fast travel across the map. How you proceed to gather souls is up to you. It doesn't matter who you fight, as any foe's souls are just as good. Beyond battles, you also get souls from raising settlements, which is valuable when you start moving away from Norse settlements you can give to your vassals, and each of their champion has their own way of getting some small amount in other ways. For example, Festus, the Nurgle champion, gets 25 souls when his plague bounces to a new settlement. Valkia gets a bit more bonus souls when she sacrifices captives after a battle. But you don't need to hold onto these hard-earned souls. Spending them on the boons from the gods is exactly what they're here for. While the undivided legendary lords can have one of each god's boons, the champions goes all in on their respective patron and can have 4 of the same god's boons, as well as 3 undivided boons activated at the same time. Granted, of course, that you can afford the upkeep of souls every turn. The boons cost souls per turn to maintain and can be turned on and off as you please. The more souls you spend in a category, the more boons you'll unlock in that category. These boons varies from being able to recruit demons for your armies, which you can have a max of 6 per army. You're playing as the mortal side of Chaos after all. And the passive buffs that helps with different things. One of my favorite is a Nurgle boon that lets you replenish in enemy territory. Really keeps the pain train going. The Warriors of Chaos roster is a heavily melee focused one, so it's good they got some of the best infantry and cavalry in the form of the Chaos Warriors and their upgraded version, the Chosens, as well as the mounted Knight equivalent. They also get access to a good slice of magic. Even core-centric armies can use magic by having an undivided sorcerer in their armies. Each marked version of a unit all shares the same benefits of that mark. Core units gains Frenzy, Tzeentch units gains Barrier and magic attacks, Slash units gains physical resistance, Speed and Strider, which means they are not affected by terrain penalties, and Nurgle units gets Health, Poison attack and melee defense but loses out on some speed and melee attack. Being undivided doesn't give them any direct bonuses, other than being cheaper, but there are bonuses to obtain in the tech trees. But if you're gonna play one of the 4 champions, going all in on the marked units is the way to go. Only exception is if you want a unit or 2 of aspiring champions that only can be undivided. If you play it as the Demons of Chaos, you'll have some familiarity as you can unlock their respective gods' battle abilities in the tech tree. So onto the champions themselves. Out of Alcorn's blessed legendary lore so far, she makes it at the bottom of the podium. Because Taurox is still insane on the campaign map, and Skarbrand got a stronger version of the Massacre mechanic, as well as being a superior combat lord. She's probably the most feared out of the 3, however. Whenever you win a combat, you get a little bit of a refill of movement range. This means when the enemy tries to run away, this is only a temporary relief, because the Gore Queen's gun give it to you. The Khorne Warrior cast features the most aggressive version, with big chunk of charge bonuses and superior melee attack stats. Valkia herself, once she gains her unique items and talents, becomes a very tanky duelist that can sit in with the masses. While Nurgle armies can sit longer and steadily outlast, Khorne relies on higher DPS and strong charge attacks to win faster and move on to the next fight. Even Khorne Marauders with their dual axes perform quite well, even if they're squishier and will take more losses. All marked rosters have 2 different styles of Chaos Warriors / Chosen, and each of the champion buffs the version they have for themselves with a bonus that scales with the unit's rank. So at rank 9, they get 9 times that bonus. They all get the shield version and a unique one to them. For Khorne, that's the dual axe version. Valkia gives them +2 charge per rank, and at rank 4 and above they get rage. The same mechanic that the Norscan faction has on their infantry, granting them physical resistance and melee attack. I do find it harder to fill up the massacre meter with Valkia compared to old Skarbrand, but she can pick up steam and keep going once she's nurtured her for a few levels. I guess while her meter isn't as powerful as Skarbrand, it's also not as punishing when you find yourself in a moment where you can't fill up the murder quota. Like at worst, you get 10% less XP for your units. I do find it harder to fill up the massacre meter thing with Valkia compared to old Skarbrand, but you can still pick up steam and keep going once you've nurtured her for a few levels. It is also not as punishing when you can't find yourself in a moment where you can't fill up the murder quota. Like at worst, you get 10% less XP for your units. A full frontal assault violence combined with heavy-hitting cavalry that have no trouble staying in a fight rather than cycling charging, and the large big-hitting monstrosities like the Bloodthirsters and the Skull Cannons is your style. And Valkia has a good time because sometimes simple is best when it can be done at such an excellence. She is also the only one out of the 4 champions that can cast spells, probably because Daddy Khorne despises spellcasting and inglorious melee combat. But enough about full frontal assault. Perhaps your style is more about going all the way into the rear. So let's talk about Azazel. Azazel is the opposite of Valkia. Azazel demands style. He brings grace, the way he walks to the way he kills. Whether it is to summon a giant whip to flagellate the masses or getting close up and personal with his double booty snake. Not only that, but Slaanesh marked cavalry gets to enjoy the devastating flanker trait that normally was reserved for Slaaneshi demons, meaning the charge values are doubled when they ram into the sides or straight up the rear of an unexpected enemy army. Azazel is not as tough as Valkia, nor is he on a Kari level of duelist DPS, but access to flying and still a powerful duelist with the ability to apply damage to all enemies around him makes him a flexible and open-minded lover of the battlefield. There are 2 caveats I have with Azazel. While he does have the Kari seduction mechanic, he has a much harder time making the seduction of factions to grow to the point where he can dominate them. Even with a +80 relationship bonus with many human factions, he still suffers a -100 penalty in aversion. Seems kind of counterproductive. Meanwhile, Nikari can simply use the cult mechanic to steadily trickle in seduction points. I just haven't managed to realistically make use of the seduction mechanic as Azazel and simply play him as any other Wars of Chaos faction, which is stomping everything in my path. It's way easier to use the subjugation than it is to trying to vassalize them through the seduction mechanic, I'm afraid. You still get to enjoy the debuffs to enemy lords that are marked with the Slaanesh, making them easier to seduce and easier to defeat. Issue number 2. The Whip Boys in Hell Scourges. They have 0 AP, but their stats are through the roof. Chosen versions only really lose to other chosen versions and Swordmaster of Hoeth in a 1 vs 1, but they can take their sweet time killing something by themselves. The active stats do make them take forever to wear down, so if you're into making use of a devastating flanker cavalry or demons you bring, then these boys will make an unbreakable wall of which to slam into over and over and over until their legs start shaking and they can't stand it anymore. But just having the Chosen of Slaanesh with the swords for general purpose generally performs better since they have at least a little bit of armor piercing. Other than that, the boys and girls in purple and pink might be considered the least differentiating out of the 4 marked versions, but at least they make up for it with style and glamour. And between massive speed boost with the techs and the Slaaneshi boons that gives all Slaanesh marked units a vanguard deployment, you're in for some real aggressive field battle experience. Alright, I think we've been reckless enough at this point, going at maximum velocity between Khorne and Slaanesh. So let's slow down, let's relax a bit. Let's just let things happen, as our mortal flesh slowly rots away sitting in front of our computer. Wait, who's that? Festus is Nurgle's contestant, and he's my personal favorite. Festus, like any gamer at peak performance, prefers his own homebrew energy drinks, and he doesn't mind sharing his latest mix with others. Much like Kugaf, you can mix and shake your latest brew and spread them to your armies and cities, who will try to export them to nearby armies and settlements. A good doctor is an excellent support lord, waddling through your units with either an healing aura or a damage aura. You can toggle to whichever. I prefer going in with a damage aura and later swap to the healing one. Chosen of Nurgle with great weapons are the strongest one-on-one infantry against other infantry in the game. They will beat literally any other infantry in the game if either side are without buffs. Now slap in the healing you get from Festus, Exalted Heroes of Nurgle, and Nurgle War Shrines, and you get one hell of a death ball. With tech, they can also get weapon strength per rank and gain fear at rank 4 and above. But the most unique thing Festus has going for him is giving his army immunity to contact effects. From my understanding, that's every type of debuff applied by melee attacks, such as poison, flammable, discourage, sunder armor, and so on and so on. So get your Hulk of Giant Knights, crack open a new monster, and advance towards everything. With a boon that lets you replenish in enemy territory, Festus might not be the fastest, but he's the hardest to stop. Just ask the Empire on an Immortal Empires map. Now for Vilitch. The final member of the gang are the Twisted Twins, Vilitch and his brother Foeman. See, back when they were just a part of a backwater Norscan tribe, Vilitch was just a scrawny loser, while his brother was the Gigashad. Despised for his sickly body, Vilitch wished he had the body of his brother, a big, strong, massive body to give back to everyone who made him eat yellow snow. And he wished to anyone willing to listen. And Tzeentch listened. As the Chaos God who loves change more than anything, a shift in the power paradigm was right up his alley, so he blessed Vilitch. One beautiful day, Vilitch woke up, finding himself turned into a feathery worm fused to the back of Foeman, who now has the free will of a low-intelligent beast and mostly function as a Vilitch's car. With Foeman's powerful frame to control and blessed in the arcane of Tzeentch magic, Vilitch burned down the village that treated him so poorly and went out to further please his new master. Vilitch and Foeman hits the middle ground of a support fighter like Festus and the fighting capabilities of the other two, with a passive similar to Rage in Twisted Twin, giving him melee attack, defense, as well as spell mastery, which increases the damage of spells by the amount of spell mastery that caster has. Vilitch also has the ability to replenish barrier of nearby troops by a fair amount whenever he casts a spell, which makes his Tzeentchian units even sturdier. Also, access to Tzeentch demons means he has fast access to range units in Pink Horrors and Flamers, and later on Soul Grinders too. Having access to the Book of Mischief, a bit watered down version of the shit that Kairos can do with his changing of ways, but Vilitch uses souls instead of scriptures as resource to perform these different events. My favorite one is to cast Boggled Mind on an enemy army that lowers their ambush defense, and then teleport ambush attack them. Another one is to help my vassal's army by giving them free spawns of chaos. You can do this to enemy armies too if you wish, but likely not worth it against high tier armies, as otherwise you might replace some tier 1 infantry with the Unbreakable and Monstrous infantry. Speaking of Monstrous infantry, let's talk about the one new unit in the DLC gives. Sure, it gives them marked versions of their warrior roster, but as for an entire new model, we only have the War Shrine. And it comes in 5 flavors, Undivided, and 1 for each of the Chaos Gods. The War Shrine is a big monster unit with pretty good attacks against infantry units. It comes with 2 auras, a bonus leadership aura, which is pretty handy for your demons, and then another aura, depending on which version you have, that increases in strength as enemies dies nearby the War Shrine. Not necessarily killed by the shrine itself, and the different auras are physical resistance, damage and melee attack, a damage over time aura, a healing over time aura, and for Tzeentch it's spell mastery and power recharge rate. Perhaps the best part with this creature is that sorcerer lords and heroes can ride it. All in all, a good unit, but takes a while to get since it can only be added after you donate a good chunk of souls to the respective god, or the Undivided pool. Now, we know what different leaders brings to the table. Let's make a quick recap of the Warrior of Chaos faction itself. You recruit your units off the land, the amount of corruption and what corruption decides what type of units you can get. Each turn, the chance of replenishing a recruitable unit increases with the corruption that attracts that kind of unit. The higher the corruption is, the more likely they're going to be replenished. Also, when you use Dark Fortresses, which are your only settlements of sorts, you can gain recruitable access directly for Chaos Warriors and Knights, using the appropriate buildings. Units are upgraded to a higher tier when you decide it, and they are of appropriate rank. Marauders can become Chaos Warriors at rank 5, then their rank resets. You can sidegrade units of the same type to different versions at any time. This makes the passive XP per turn skills of the melee hero very attractive to speed things up. You need tech from the middle tree to upgrade your units to higher tier. If you play Undivided, you need to research the markings to mark your units. But as any of the 4 champions, you start your campaign with the mark already researched. You can go right ahead and just mark already units, unless you want aspiring champions. I do find aspiring champions with tech upgrades especially good for Valkia and Festus out of the 4 champions. While you can take any settlement, the only one you gain real benefits from are the Dark Fortresses, which are marked with a golden castle-looking ruin building icon next to it, letting you know that you can turn this city into a Dark Fortress. Also, grabbing resource buildings are pretty handy, as they normally give some kind of global bonus to your faction. So you don't need to be afraid to give minor settlements to your vassal, which you have plenty of, through subjugation and by claiming Dark Fortresses connected to a certain Norscan tribes. If you love powerful melee infantry and sturdy cavalry, with a new style of campaign progression and a better Realm of Chaos experience, then Champions of Chaos gets my highest recommendation. It's one of the priciest DLCs for the game. It is, after all, a faction DLC, if you don't have the original Wars of Chaos DLC from Warhammer 1. I've had a lot of enjoyment with these 4 goofs in both Immortal Empire and the Realms of Chaos. They're fairly easy campaigns as the faction is ridiculously strong at the moment. I think big reason for this is because how auto-resolve grossly overweights the value of armor, and Chaos Warriors and Chosen gets over 100 of it easily. And so you and the AI both can auto-resolve through many things, even things you probably couldn't win manually. Thank God for these 2 Chaos Warriors sitting here. If you're not as sold in playing as overpowering feudal space marines, you can probably start seeing this DLC going on sale around, I would say, January or February. All in all, I'll give this 6 Nurgle Chosens with great weapons can beat 9 Khorne Chosen with dual weapons out of 10. I want to thank you for watching. I have a Twitch where I stream every so days around the same time, a Twitter where I post when new videos and streams comes up, and a YouTube where the videos are posted, all found in the description. And until next time.
I believed that you would protect me. But you took everything from me. So take my faith back.